Every hand Zhenli Ye Gon played sent a jolt through the Venetian's earnings, sometimes wiping out millions in a night. He was not just the biggest gambler in Las Vegas. Federal agents allege he was a chemical kingpin, laundering cartel profits right under the casino's nose. How did the Strip's most sophisticated vault become a private bank for Mexico's meth trade? The answer starts here. Born in Shanghai, Zhenli Ye Gon arrived in Mexico with an eye for opportunity and a background in the pharmaceutical trade. By 2002, he had become a naturalized Mexican citizen, an official transformation that opened new doors for business and banking. But the real business, according to U.S. and Mexican authorities, started in 2004. That is when YeGon's name began to surface in customs records and shipping manifests tied to pseudoephedrine, a chemical used in cold medicine, but far more valuable as the essential ingredient for methamphetamine. YeGon's organization specialized in importing massive quantities of pseudoephedrine, moving shipments from Asia to Mexico. Mexican law tightly controlled the chemical, but YeGon's companies allegedly sidestepped restrictions, funneling precursor stockpiles to buyers with cartel connections. Once in cartel hands, the chemical was converted to crystal meth, destined for the U.S. market. The profits were staggering. Hundreds of millions in cash generated by a single link in the drug supply chain. On paper, YeGon presented himself as a legitimate businessman. His credit applications listed him as the owner of a pharmaceutical firm. He had government-issued ID and a reputation for wealth. But behind the luxury, investigators traced a pipeline of illicit money, cash that needed to be moved, cleaned, and made invisible to both Mexican and U.S. authorities. That need for placement would soon turn LAS Vegas into his financial playground, and the Venetian into the vault for a criminal fortune. Between 2004 and early 2007, Zhenli Ye Gon's gambling became a force that could sway the financial health of entire casinos. Across the United States, his total losses reached over $125 million. The Venetian alone accounted for more than $84 million of that figure, a number so large it stood out on internal earnings charts, flagged as an outlier. Of that, $36.5 million was extended to him as credit and ultimately written off as bad debt, a sum that would have been catastrophic for most players. For the Venetian, it was simply the cost of keeping a whale in the water. His play was not just notable for its scale. Every hand of baccarat he played in the Venetian's VIP salons was monitored in real time by executives. Individual sessions could swing the casino's daily earnings, and those swings rippled upward, impacting quarterly reports and the bonuses of top management. The same executives tasked with overseeing compliance and risk were also watching their own compensation rise and fall, with YeGon's luck at the tables. Internal documents show that his betting patterns were tracked as a financial event unto themselves. He was classified as an outlier, his losses, wins, and credit extensions plotted separately from the rest of the casino's clientele. The pressure to keep him playing was immense. As long as the money kept flowing in, the machinery of the Venetian revolved around his action, creating a powerful incentive to overlook questions about where those funds came from. The casino's appetite for profit created a blind spot, one that would become critical as the true source of YeGon's bankroll came under scrutiny. Between February 2005 and March 2007, a network of wire transfers and cashier's checks funneled nearly $58 million into the Venetian. The money did not travel a straight path. Instead, it wound through 2 Mexican banks and 7 casas de cambio, informal currency exchange houses that operated with little oversight. Some wires came from companies or individuals with no clear connection to the man at the baccarat table, yet all the funds landed in accounts that credited Zhenli Ye Gon's play. The routing was anything but accidental. Transfers were split among 4 different accounts, including Las Vegas Sands Incorporated, Venetian Marketing Incorporated, Interface Employee Leasing, and a Sands subsidiary in Hong Kong. This layering, moving funds through multiple entities and jurisdictions, created a paper trail too tangled for simple compliance checks. At times, money arrived from a Hong Kong account, adding an international layer that slowed down any attempt to trace the origin. Casas de Cambio played a central role. These exchange houses, already flagged by U.S. regulators as high risk for money laundering, allowed large sums to move across borders with minimal scrutiny. On some days, multiple wires would arrive within hours of each other, each just below the threshold that might trigger an automatic report. The listed originators changed from transaction to transaction, sometimes shell companies, sometimes individuals, leaving the casino with little more than a name and a sum to work with. Requests from the Venetian compliance staff for larger, consolidated transfers were met with resistance. The preference was always for small, frequent wires, an approach designed to avoid notice. The system was not built to catch this kind of fragmentation. Instead, it was left with a mosaic of deposits, each piece perfectly ordinary on its own, but together forming a structure built to defeat detection. Red flags multiplied as YeGon's deposits kept pouring in. Wires arrived on the same day or on consecutive days, each just small enough to avoid automatic scrutiny. The names on the transfers shifted constantly, sometimes a shell company, sometimes an individual, and rarely a clear link to the man betting millions in the VIP room. Many of these wires came from Casas de Cambio, already notorious for their use in money laundering. Some funds landed in accounts that had nothing to do with the casino floor at all, like the Sands aviation account, an operational fund meant to pay pilots. That account, with no visible casino branding, became a hidden on-ramp for customer deposits, bypassing the usual compliance checks. Casino staff noticed the pattern. They asked YeGon to send larger, less frequent wires with consistent beneficiary information. His answer was blunt. He preferred smaller, fragmented transfers because, in his own words, he didn't want the government to notice. That was not a hint or a slip. It was a direct admission captured in compliance records. Beneath the surface, the Bank Secrecy Act set clear rules. Casinos must act like banks, filing suspicious activity reports when transactions look suspicious or when they are structured to avoid detection. Here, the warning signs were everywhere. Same-day wires, incomplete data, neutral accounts, and a patron openly stating his intent to evade government oversight. Yet the Venetian did not escalate. The money kept moving, and the blind spots grew wider. Every missed report, every overlooked detail, made the casino's exposure more acute. What should have triggered immediate action instead became a case study in how compliance can be sidelined when a whale is on a winning streak, or, in this case, a losing one. March 15, 2007. Mexican federal police stormed Zhenli Ye Gon's mansion in Lomas de Chapultepec, Mexico City. Inside, they found something no law enforcement agency had ever seen before: $207 million in United States currency, stacked in shrink-wrapped towers, filling entire rooms. Gold coins, luxury watches, and high-powered firearms rounded out the hall. Amid the chaos of bills and evidence bags, investigators picked up bundles of cash held together with currency straps printed with the Venetian's logo. The connection was now undeniable. Casino cash, cartel profits, and the largest drug cash seizure in history, all in one place. Federal investigators pored over the Venetian's records, searching for any sign that compliance had kept pace with the money. The account had been flagged as high risk in 2006, yet no suspicious activity report was filed until April 2007, weeks after the Mexican raid and months after prosecutors say the casino had enough evidence to act. That first suspicious activity report left out critical details: the true scale of YeGon's losses, the web of accounts, and even his own admission that he structured wires to avoid detection. By October 2006, the Bank Secrecy Act required action. The Venetian hesitated, and the gap became the centerpiece of the case brought by the DOJ. Today, U.S. casinos are required to treat every wire and wager as potential evidence, not just profit. Even with new safeguards, high roller money still tests the system's limits. When billions move through the shadows, the real gamble is not on the tables. It is on who is watching the watchers.